This video was brought to you by a weird gnome who wouldn't stop tugging on my pant leg until I told you about his pet collection. Stibble's Codex of Companions is a book that provides over 100 new monsters, ranging from folklore like the Tanuki and Odin's crows, to weird ideas like the gummy bear ooze or the yetling. It also has mechanics for befriending wild creatures that uses the strength of your friendship to essentially level up your companions. We've got some interesting magic items like the Slamo brand Ultimate Disc, or the Throw It, or Pocket Balls. It was a fun time to write, okay? Check out our book and some of our other products using the link below. We'll actually be adding some highly requested file types down the line, and some brand new stuff. Okay, thanks for enduring that. Here's my video. Welcome to a video about one of the least explored species in D&D, the Thri-Kreen. These beatboxing mantis people are so heavily underrepresented that the in-book description makes them narratively useless outside of sudden and pointless combat. Which is funny, because out of all the monsters in the book, Thri-Kreen and gnolls attacking the party out of nowhere because of a generic dice roll makes the most sense. It's actually a bit difficult to begin describing them, so I'll go explain what we know and then I'll just try to expand on them. Your typical Thri-Kreen looks like the man-bat counterpart to Ant-Man, with a sprinkle of features from the hyper-religious mantis. I always wonder what kind of god those things are whispering to. What is the daily cross that a mantis has to carry? Back to bugmen. Their language is incredibly limited because their mandibles are only capable of clicks, clacks, and making paralytic spit bubbles. Beyond that, their biology is already based in misunderstanding. According to the book, they communicate using their antennae in addition to mouth clicks. But antennae are much closer to little arms covered in noses and tongues. I'm guessing they're based on the idea of a mantis because of their behavior, which I'll get to, but I want to reimagine how this creature speaks. Grasshoppers chirp by doing something called stridulation, which is rubbing little leg knives on other leg knives, the same way that the inside of a music box works. And ants communicate mainly by pheromones. So from my perspective, their language, that people call Thri-Kreen, would be a combination of chirping with their forearms and cartoonish pink farts. Speaking of their forearms, they have 4 arms, which is one of my favorite design tropes next to ridiculously long tails. Normally, a Thri-Kreen fights using its poisonous baby bubble spit and claws, but some of them employ unique traditional martial weapons, one being a 2-sided spear with crescent blades called a githka, and the other being a triangular throwing blade made of crystal, which I think is called a chatkcha. I don't have mandibles and I don't know how to speak ice cream. But this is also super weird to me because they literally don't create, own, or wear anything else. Their entire culture as it stands is nomadic survival hunting. That's it, that's the Thri-Kreen. Sometimes in small groups, often alone, they'll wander around, avoiding everyone and everything, sticking to their own territory, hunting to eat. They never sleep, which is so exhausting that they give up on being alive after like 30 years. Hell, I would too. That sounds miserable if you think about it. Did you know that ants take like 200 power naps a day, each one less than a minute long? That's twice as much rest as your average Amazon worker's breathing time. Because their lives are so simple, Thri-Kreen are borderline brain dead when it comes to emotions, trade, and interspecies communication. I can relate to the last one. Thanks, quarantine, for pushing us further from monkey and closer to crab. The last important detail that we have before I get to take the wheel is magic. Rarely, and completely inexplicably, a man-ant manifests alien psionics that help it hunt. But with the gift of overclocking a creature's brain comes a stronger emotional curiosity. So the dudes what have magic sometimes feel sad, and they actually talk to people about it. Oh yeah, they also have cuttlefish pigments. Now let's reimagine stuff. That was my back. Ow. Starting backwards, I don't like that they can change the pigmentation of an exoskeleton. The book says that they hunt in savannas and deserts exclusively, which means they just have natural camouflage for one environment. So I'd rather throw these things anywhere that a hunter would be and reskin them uniquely to each area. Like a jungle Thri-Kreen would be green and have moss growing on them. Next is their psionics. They get mage hand, blur, invisibility, and magic weapon. In D&D, psionics can happen suddenly to creatures, but I'm a schooler, so I think that everything needs a reason. Since they don't have a fitting history or an existing culture at all, I want to tie brain magic to their weapons. Maybe they used to be a fully established society of psychic warlords, but their campaigns led them to cross with greater forces, and as a punishment, their brains were dampened, their community forgotten, and their thirst for war was simplified back to a need for survival. This would make their weapons heirlooms of a bygone time, and their psychic awakenings are more like potentially dangerous omens of what might happen in the future. Now for their communication and emotional alienation. I think their current state makes them hunt alone, speaking Thri-Kreen only during mating season or when defending their territory. But when awakened, or near a civilization, they'll employ written symbols and drawings to conduct trade, get temporary help fighting large creatures, or indicate that they mean no harm. I could also see a psionic Thri-Kreen gathering up a hunting team of others. I actually really like their inability to rest and their short lifespans. It adds to their need to constantly hunt for fuel. And lastly, because I think that's a decent upgrade, let's look at party interaction. If they're starving or they're in a team, they'll likely just attack the party. Otherwise, they'll avoid the party altogether unless they're being tracked. They might be considered valuable for their tough carapace, the exotic weapons that they carry, and their heads might make really good helmets. Maybe the head of a psionic Thri-Kreen adds a mental protection. This started out as Basically Thri-Kreen, but I changed the title halfway through. So, that's how I'd make better Thri-Kreen. Peace.